The escalating conflict between the US and Iran is sending shockwaves through the global oil market. The Persian Gulf is highly volatile right now, and the physical flow of international trade is under immediate threat. Every single day, Iran sends over 1.3 million barrels of crude oil to Chinese ports. That single supply line accounts for more than 13% of China's maritime oil imports, directly feeding the country's vast network of domestic refineries. Normally, a nation with that much physical and economic exposure to a conflict zone would immediately rush to the negotiating table. The standard geopolitical response is to aggressively broker a peace deal to protect domestic lifelines. Yet Beijing is sitting firmly in the background. According to political analyst HoPin, this delayed arrival to the diplomatic front lines is a highly calculated strategy, not a sign of apathy. To understand why China is holding back, we must look past daily oil statistics and examine the internal political machinery dictating Beijing's survival logic. The first reason stems directly from the top. Over his 30-year political career, Xi Jinping has adhered to a strict operational rule. He does not step into unpredictable, high-risk scenarios without a clear advantage. During the 2015 Iran nuclear deal negotiations, China stayed quietly out of the spotlight, acting entirely as a background participant among the global powers. But fast forward to the 2023 reconciliation between Saudi Arabia and Iran, and Beijing highly publicized its central role. The difference between those two events was the guarantee of a win. Xi only chose to personally take the center stage in 2023 because the conditions for a successful truce were already locked into place. Intervening now, in the middle of a volatile standoff, invites a high probability of failure. A broken negotiation would directly damage his carefully crafted domestic image as a great power leader. The second factor is the deeply ingrained institutional culture of China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Decades ago, former Premier Zhou Enlai established a strict mandate that diplomacy is no small matter. Over time, that historical mandate has evolved into a very specific bureaucratic survival instinct. Doing less means making fewer mistakes. This diagram shows the complex diplomatic web of the modern Middle East. If a Chinese diplomat tries to actively intervene right now, they must perfectly balance Washington's suspicions, Israel's political distance, Gulf anxieties, and Iranian factional divisions. Beijing heavily penalizes officials for missteps in these high-stakes scenarios, offering very little reward for bold initiative. For the diplomats tasked with managing these regional relationships, remaining completely passive is the only guaranteed method to avoid a career-ending error. The final and most pressing factor is the delicate state of the broader relationship between the United States and China. The two nations recently reached a difficult trade truce following the summit in Busan. The Busan summit was a high-level diplomatic meeting where both countries managed to temporarily pause escalating economic tensions. That fragile economic pause is facing a tight deadline, with Donald Trump scheduled to visit Beijing this April. If Beijing aggressively pushes itself as the primary mediator between the US and Iran right now, conservative voices in Washington will view it as a direct challenge for dominance in the Middle East. That kind of political friction would immediately disrupt Trump's narrative of being a peacemaking president. Beijing is willing to let the immediate crisis in the Persian Gulf play out, because preserving that overarching macroeconomic truce with the United States is their absolute highest priority. But staying off the physical front lines does not mean China has abandoned the situation. Beijing's representatives have been delivering highly vocal, impassioned speeches at the United Nations. Phrases like opposing unilateral actions and promoting peace are carefully calibrated signals. They project solidarity with Iran while serving as a subtle warning to Washington, quietly building up diplomatic capital for the future. China is actively hoarding its political energy and waiting. They are watching for the exact moment when both sides reach total exhaustion and the current negotiations grind to a complete standstill. In the complex world of great power diplomacy, the ultimate advantage rarely goes to the first country to intervene. It goes to the nation that steps onto the stage at the very end to dictate the final terms.